We're on. We're on.
Thanks for the faith shown by some of the people there, by the way.
Getting absolute abuse. Getting
Yeah,
dogs
exactly.
abuse. Robin's
Yeah.
absolutely hurling some right shit at you.
Hang on, you sent me a good
I'm only
hangout,
joking. I'm only
and
joking.
I'm on.
How you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, and you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Can you hear me all right?
I think so. Yeah, you got me.
Yeah, I've got you. Martin just sent me a message saying he can't hear for some reason. But
I can, I can put some earphones in. That might be better.
oh no, you're all right. I can hear you loud and clear. Can everyone hear, by the way? Just pop a little thumbs up.
My earphones sort of pointed down.
That's fine, mate. Yes, looks like everyone can
All
hear,
good?
so we're all good. Yes, all good.
Okay.
So you've had a bit of a change of location.
Yeah. Just Victoria to Adelaide, Melbourne to Adelaide. So
Okay,
I just have to check the
nice.
calendars. We're all synced and everything. So yeah, all
Sweet.
good.
That's fine, mate. Not a problem. We had a bit of a chat the other day, and you were telling me about some of the, obviously, barring the personal stuff. It'd be good. I think it'd be good because I didn't realise the state of the current situation in Oz. Could you give us, those that don't know, a bit of a insight into what's going on over there? Because I think, especially over here, like I said to you, I don't know of loads of people who are in the same situation as what it sounds like are in AFL and NRL at the minute over here. I don't know what it's like in the US, but I know it's a pretty unstable situation in Oz.
Yeah, it is. It's speaking to a couple of people in the US, they haven't gone down the path of, sort of docking pay or anything like that yet. But we have basically 80% of staff have been put on leave without pay, and this is across across all teams. And yeah, it's been some clubs have just gone outright and sacked staff, coaches and fitness staff, and others have provided them with holiday pay and annual leave and things like that in order to prolong it a bit more. And any staff that are remaining are on at least a 50% pay cut while we're not playing. And then when we get back to playing, I assume it'll be, we'll be asked to take a pay cut of some description for a little while, and then see what happens after that. So it's it's pretty dire. And the problem is, even if you get let go by one club because of the circumstances, it's not like you can go and join a gym or personal train or go to another club. So so it's a bit dire at the moment. There's a bit of a lack of enthusiasm, but hopefully, the signs are pretty good down here. We haven't got it so far as bad as what the US and the UK and Europe have. So all indications are that we'll be back training in a month or so.
So, well, why is it so bad down there? Is there a certain reliance on certain income that's been chopped, or what?
Yeah, without getting myself into trouble with the AFL.
Yeah, of course.
It's essentially relying on
Not again.
I'm just hanging on, Rob. So it's we're reliant on TV income, and when there's no games, there's no income.
Yeah, simple.
So essentially, a bit similar to my understanding of the Premier League as well. It's just that we're not owned by rich owners. The AFL basically own all our clubs.
Okay, interesting. Did you?
And it's the same with NRL and A-League and everything as well.
Of course. Did you have a little look at the thread yesterday, the Omni one?
Yeah. Just as an interested onlooker, I got dragged into it a little bit, but it's, I don't know, where do I start? Firstly, someone like Mike Boyle, who's done everything, it's hard to argue with him and what he's done in the game. I guess my point is, you don't have to be in the gym to get strong. I don't think you need to do that at all. And so someone like Thierry Henry, firstly, the first point is Gary Neville was wrong, and I love him because I love his comments and things like that. But, it was lower body strength. It wasn't upper body strength. I mean, he had to, produce force against the ground. We know that. But there have been that many players that I've seen and dealt with that have that sort of level of strength that have never touched a gym. And does that mean they're not strong? No, not at all. Could they be improved by a gym? That's probably the question that Mike was asking. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. I'm not sure they could. And I'm not sure it's better than practicing a free kick or whatever other skills you might use. I've worked with players from South America, from Africa, who, and I went into Liverpool, for example, in 2010, genuinely believing that you had to go to the gym to get strong. And then I come across some players over there that just you could not push Luis Suarez off the ball, and yet never been in a gym. Now, with the great help of some great staff there, Jordan Milsom and those guys, we got Luis into the gym. But and interestingly, Mike made this point in one of his threads. That was mainly because we had a young Uruguayan player who definitely needed to work in the gym. Okay. And he was only going to go in there if his Uruguayan idol was in the gym. So, but did that improve Suarez's game? I'm pretty sure it didn't. He was pretty good when he came to us, and he was pretty good when he left, and it wasn't because he spent 20 minutes in a gym 3 times a week. Yeah. So, you have to remember. So let's take Henry, Suarez, whoever. One of the things about soccer, football, is that growing up, how many sort of one-on-one situations, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, 5-a-side games do you reckon Henry played? Like
a lot.
You couldn't count them. Yeah. So he's in that isometric half squat position, holding off players left, right, and centre, going into acceleration, deceleration. That is getting overloaded through repetition. So does he need to then single leg lunge, RDL, squat? I don't know, pick your poison. Does he need to do that? I don't think so. Is there a diminishing returns where if once you get to a certain point, is that gym going to improve his performance, or is he going to be better spent, I don't know, working on another part of his craft? So, and I think probably not. And I don't know, I guess the other thing is, I reckon too often people have held up, you've asked one question, I've gone for 30 minutes, but people have held up, people have held up people like Henry or Suarez or Messi, and one of the best, I read, and Michael Jordan's relevant now because of the doco that's about to come out. In his first autobiography, which I ordered, and it took 4 weeks to ship over to Australia, which is showing how old I am. He said, before every game, I used to have steak and chips, right? Because I knew when I needed the energy, it was there. Now, clearly, could he have a more beneficial meal before the game? Probably he could. Are you going to tell Michael Jordan, just ease off on the steak and you'll probably have a better career? I'm not sure. You're going to try and educate and help out. But there comes a point where maybe people reach a certain level, particularly with physical things. I think with diet, eventually he found his way. But yeah, I'm not sure that telling Thierry Henry you should spend more time in the gym and less time working on your free kicks, when he's already at a great level of strength and a sufficient level of strength. If he was breaking down, getting hammies and quads and lower back injuries and calves, okay, different story. But I never worked with him, so I don't know whether he was doing that. Suarez was unbreakable. So there wasn't a lot to gain in in putting him in there for any length of time.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the interesting things and Des popped on, Des Ryan, and said that when he was in the academy, he was actually obviously come through his playing career and gone through his coaching badges, and he was very much for the guys doing athletic development sessions. So he's obviously, did like he said in the video, this is just me. This is not,
yes.
I don't think it's for everyone else. This is just me.
Yep.
And I think that's crucial to emphasize, that he wasn't saying this is the only way to do it. And I think the thing that annoys me a little bit is that, well, just tell him, like, you need to go and almost just tell him, go in the gym. Like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
You can't, like, it's got to be such a soft. You can't just go in all guns blazing. I mean, I've not worked at obviously that kind of level that you have, but anyone who's in a professional football environment, they've got, and especially him. You look at his stats. Like, won the World Cup, won the Euros. 5 times UEFA Team of the Year. He's done all right.
Done okay.
Like, chill out. And we've got this comment.
No, I was just going to say, particularly if his injury record is okay, then we don't have a comment to make. You're not going to walk into Arsenal in, I don't know, whenever Henry joined in 2002, and I'm not going to bowl in there in 2006 and say, oh, this is the Australian way. You need to squat. You need to, not a chance. If he's had repeated hammy, quads, calves, okay, different story. Then I'm going to go in there and say, listen, one way which you might prevent your hamstring. I know you've won a World Cup, but you've missed a lot of games through hamstring injuries, and then you try and get his respect. I could tell you some stories where, elite players have. I don't know if I can swear here, but.
Go for it.
When I've tried to educate them and gone through as sensitively as possible, they've just gone, fuck off. What do you know? You're Australian. You guys are shit at soccer. And okay, I'll try another path. I'll try a different way. And I know there's going to be strength coaches who go, well, you have an obligation to do it. And I remember, and you do have an obligation to provide that player with the best individual attention that you can. So if I go into Arsenal and Henry, who's got a pretty good injury record, who's won World Cups and done everything there is to do in the game, and say, what is his individual plan? Is he lacking strength? No, he's not. Is he lacking speed? No, he's not. Is he? Could he spend some time working on free kicks? Probably not as well. But when we're talking about Henry, But what's going to be the best bang for the buck to help Arsenal Football Club? And that is to whatever it is with him.
So in that scenario, and like I'd put a couple of times, I think maybe it got lost, but we've got to park our own agenda and just go, okay, it's Henry, nothing to do with me. Yeah. Go do your thing. Go do it with the assistant coach to work on your left foot or something. It's better for you and the whole club, the whole team and the whole club, for me just not to be involved, because you don't need me. Yeah. I'm not here to help you. I'm here to help someone else. Yeah. But I think because we want to prove our worth, etc., it's, I feel like I should be doing something because I'm here and I'm here to help. Whereas actually, just get out of the way because it's Henry.
Especially because he's a bit of a big fish. So you want to, you want to be mates with the big fish. And I made the mistake, I don't mind saying it, walked into Liverpool and we had, I might have said this in a conference or two, we had the World Cup players came back into training, it's 2010, and we grabbed the World Cup players aside and said, we're going to improve your career, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And one of them just got up and said, we'll see. I've heard this before, we'll see. And I thought, fair play. Okay. And he actually said, I'll give you 6 months. I'll give you 6 months. Yeah. Right. And I went, okay, just hold the visa application, but fair play to him, I reckon about 3 months later, he said, no, you're one of us. You're one of us. So, so that was good. But, Spain had just won the World Cup. Oh, yeah, but hang on, you should eat your meals 2.5 hours before the game instead of 2 hours a game. You need to have an ice bath to recover from. You've just won the World Cup. Can everyone get better? Of course they can in different areas, but let's not bring your own agenda, as you said, and bring what you've read in the latest, research article to say that everybody needs to have an ice bath or everybody needs to go to the gym in order to get better. It doesn't always work like that.
So Callum Walsh piped up and put a couple of interesting comments. And actually, who has worked? I don't know if you saw them, but who has actually worked with anyone of the caliber of Thierry Henry and understands how much of a soft approach that you have to go in with them kind of players. And on the thread, there's probably not many apart from yourself and, like you say, Mike. So I know you've spoken about it a couple of times just now, but how soft do you have to be, and how delicate do you have to be in terms of putting your message across? And we're obviously all in it for the players, but we've got to keep our own jobs as well. So we can't be going there, but all guns blazing, because these guys have got power. So on both fronts, how soft do you have to be in that approach with them top class players?
Yeah, I guess I was a little bit different to say a Walshy or some of the local people, because I've been brought in to do a job and if it failed, I could always come back to Australia, right? So my situation was a little bit different to most, because it wasn't home, it wasn't my local club where I'd have to uproot, kids and what have you. That was going to happen at some point anyway. So I could be a little bit more direct than most. I remember Steve Tashant, when I was at Liverpool, he was at Everton, and we would catch up, and he said to me, I think if I stay here much longer, I'm becoming mediocre. And just because he felt he wasn't getting the buy-in, from whoever. And I reckon, before I answer your question, there's a point in which, as a S&C fitness or whatever, where if you're compromising yourself too much in order to sit at the front row of the Emirates or, Turf Moor or wherever, okay, we've got a bit of a problem there. If you're just saying yes to anything to get the watch at the end of the season or to get okay, we've got a bit of a problem there. So if it's the wrong thing, but if it's, I heard Eddie Jones speak on another podcast, and they asked him about Lionel Messi. If you've got, almost a once in a generation player, okay, hands off, away you go. And Alexis Sanchez's training methods were against everything that anyone in the history of sports science or strength and conditioning would ever recommend. Pretty handy player. So we took a bit of a hands-off approach with him. With players like, who'd had significant injury history, even if they had full belief that their methods were right, and you knew you could help them by applying some of your own methods, and even if they were stubborn, as I felt it was our responsibility as a performance department to have those really tough conversations and sort of point out, listen, you've had a bunch of injuries, so what you're doing is not working. I know you're on 200 grand a week, and I know you're going home in your Ferrari, and I'm not. But the conversation that the approach that I would generally take is a bit of ego. Listen, I wasn't good enough. I'm not one of these fitness coaches who says, yeah, I was a high school athlete and I was a really good pro, but I got injured. And so, no, never good enough, not even close. So, but I've spent 22 years of my life dedicated to helping people like you get back on the park quicker, improve their performance, earn more money, whatever motivates you. So in my experience doing that, this is what I know will work in your situation. Okay, it will be to get to the gym. It will be to jump in an ice bath. It will be to go and do some meditation, whatever it might be. If it doesn't work the first time, that's okay. I'll always go back again. I'll always go back again. I'll always go back again. There'll rarely be a point where, just because I feel it's an obligation to the club, where you're not going to try if you can see someone doing something blatantly wrong. And again, I'll preface it by saying I was a bit more fortunate than others in that it wasn't my hometown. And so I respect the fact that some people, job security is super important. I was a little bit luckier, and maybe it's an Aussie mentality, and maybe some people I've rubbed up the wrong way because of it. But I felt I owed it to the club.
Mm-hmm. Has there been any points in your career where you have cringe because certain things have had to been done to maybe get the buy-in from a top class player that you know that isn't necessarily the right way to go, but you've just had to do it because needs must to get what you want in the end?
Have I had to cringe? Yeah, I've had players come into the gym and just do listen, just sit there and do bicep curls. That's it. But if other players see you in there, that will allow me to get to them and speak to them about what they need. But you just do curls because of testing or whatever, you don't need it, but just do curls. I've had to, I reckon I had this conversation with maybe you and Walsh and Tom Nettle. I've had to text message players after games because there's young players waiting to run after games and it's pissing down and it's 2 degrees and players are sitting on their phone, senior internationals on their phone, not looking at me because they don't want to run. It's the hardest conversation to have in world sport, I reckon. And the other, it's amazing, the other staff just disappear.
You're on your own.
I guess I'll have a chat. And so I've had to text a player and say, I don't want to disrespect you in front of people. I know you don't want to do this. Believe me, I don't want to do this. We've just had a shit result, but I've got 3 young kids here who look up to you and look up to everything you do. So can you come out and do it? And that's not what you want. That doesn't happen in Australia. That's not what I grew up with. But in that scenario, that was me being, I don't know, however you want to describe it, catering to that player's ego. Okay, so be it. Comes out at the end of the run, puts his arm around me and says, I appreciate you doing it the way you did. I went, okay, that's a win. Now, the next week, I would have had to do the same thing, no problem.
Yeah.
But I knew that was a way to get to him. So you do have to compromise a bit, and there'll be strength coaches, fitness coaches out there. No way I'd do that. The players should do it to get better. Okay, let's see how you go in that situation. You have to be a bit inventive, and hopefully the grey hairs buy you something,
mm-hmm.
in terms of how to handle that.
Yeah, Peter Crouch said in his podcast, I think it was his podcast, maybe his book, about, and then I think Dave Carolan was on air earlier. I think Dave pulling him on a Tuesday night at Stoke when he was 39 to do some extra runs definitely sent him over the edge to retirement.
Yes.
So
no
doubt.
So, one of the great footballers of all time in Australia, and comfortably one of the best, most skillful players I've ever had the pleasure of working with only briefly, is Mark Viduka, and just one of the great characters in world sport. And he jumped off a bed getting needled in his Achilles by the Australian doctor at the time, Peter Bruckner. Just, you know what, I'm retiring. It's not worth it.
I'm done.
It's not worth it. The pain you're putting, and he was at the back end of his career, and it was touch and go whether he was going to go on. It's not worth it. So
did Viduka enjoy football?
Loved it.
Did he?
Loved
okay.
It. Yeah. It didn't look like he did, the body language, but you have to remember he's a mad Croatian, and so he had the white line fever big time.
Yeah. Right.
I loved it. Okay. What a player.
Yeah. Dave's just commented on that. This may have touched on, but we've just got a question through. Does it all come back to being adaptable to our approach? We all have our philosophy we believe in, but being adaptable to the environment across all players while maintaining your philosophy is key. Guess we've covered that.
Yeah, like I said, I don't want people to think that you compromise your beliefs and your philosophy, but you just can't do that. And as soon as you know you're doing that, you can deny yourself as much as you want, but as soon as you know you're doing that, I think you have a problem.
Mm-hmm. How does it, like Mike had put on the, I think on the first thread, that the comment to Henri's potential comment would be to, once you're like a young player looking at that, once you're as good as him, you don't have to go in the gym. Have you used that kind of line before with younger lads or developing athletes?
Yep, it's a great line.
Yeah.
It's a great line. And that was my go-to line really early on in your career. Okay, well, if you can do that, no problem. And and they soon shut up. So, I reckon that's spot on. And obviously we have someone like Ronaldo that we can hold up in football to do that, and to have, that person as a benchmark. And they'll always come back with, but Messi didn't do that. Yep, okay, no problem. But there's not too many like him. So, absolutely.
So there's quite a few comments on that thread yesterday, and it was quite interesting to see how much S&C coaches struggle to relate to the comments that he made. That because maybe they're hung up on, I'm an S&C coach, I believe in this, but therefore I can't get on board with what he's saying. Why do you think we struggle so much to understand that? Is it just people haven't been in that environment? Is it lack of experience? Is it just headstrong that we think we know best? Does it come back to the fact that we want to justify our jobs and we have to kind of go hard on that to stand by what we believe in?
Yeah, I reckon it's a combination of those. And a really good example to give to people is goalkeepers. Goalkeepers, when they train, if you look at what a goalkeeper is required to do, it's bugger all, right, and then explode in any direction, and reaction time and all that sort of stuff. But just physically, they're required. So you go, okay, plyometrics. They need plyometrics, no problem. So you go and watch how any of the world's best goalkeepers train, and it's constant plyometrics and constant exploding and constant. So then you're going to take them to the gym for their 25-minute after session when they've probably done over. We logged it at Liverpool how many jumps one of our goalkeepers did in a session. It was something like 280 odd. And then you're going to take them into the gym and say, no, goalkeepers need explosiveness. Therefore, I need to. No, you're not. So it's identifying the training, and keep coming back to that because in Australia we think to get strong you squat, but I keep coming back to if my son ends up being a talented footballer, would I get him into the gym or get my daughter into the gym? No, I wouldn't. Early on, I would get them in that 1-on-1, 2v2, 3v3, 4v4, in those isolated strength positions, like Henri's position was, which was absolutely a total body strength position. So I think people need to realise there's more than one way to do it, and just because Thierry Henry did it doesn't make it right, or Michael Jordan or Lionel Messi doesn't. But my goodness, there are a lot of examples of people in world sport that have gotten unbelievably strong and athletic through a whole range of different methods. I think we need to just open our experiences a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Look at, I've taken a couple of players to watch Cirque du Soleil.
Okay.
A couple of big, tough Aussie rules players watching Cirque du Soleil. How many times do you reckon a Cirque du Soleil gymnast has squatted or single leg lunged? And yet none of my players could do anything resembling what the ballerinas, Cirque du Soleil acrobats could do. Do you reckon they've RDL'd and Nordic and single? No. So it's domain specific.
You'll have had this conversation with coaches, and I've had it from a little bit from a player's point of view, but also from a coach's point of view. When they're analysing the game, he gets knocked off the ball too much. He needs to go in the gym. Okay, fair point. So he's relatively strong, which I wouldn't put myself in that category, but he's relatively strong, but he's still getting knocked off the ball. So I'm going to take him in the gym, but at what point and whose responsibility is that to take that, what he's learned in the gym, back out on the pitch to actually understand how to use his body? Back to the Henri thing. Like, you take him in the gym, he's probably weak as hell, but you get him on a ball and no one's going to knock him off it. So how is that our responsibility? I guess that's very club specific, but how do we get that strength from in here and get it out there to understand body position, understand to use that strength across?
So it's a great question. And so what's our job? My job is to provide the coaches and the players with the best possible high performance environment. And that absolutely includes taking somebody who's getting knocked off the ball in any sport, getting backed into the key too much in the NBA, getting wrestled off the ball in AFL, and try and improve that. Okay, so how do I do that? Let's say Henri was testing very well. I'll use him because we're talking about him, testing unbelievably well in the gym, but was getting pushed off the ball. So then I go to the assistant coach first who made the comment and say, look where he ranks in our gym. Do you think that Martin Skirtle was getting pushed off the ball? No, he's not. Okay, well, Henri's actually stronger than him. I'm just mixing up clubs. I'm just picking players from everywhere. So do you think that's happening? No, it's not. Okay. So if he's stronger than him in the gym, well, something must be wrong. Well, yeah, it is. It's actually the transfer and his body position and his timing and his expression. Okay, expression of that strength. So can we go out and let's say the assistant coach is an old school. No, that's not my job. That's your job. Okay. You go then to the player, and also you then go to the player and say, look, your strength's unbelievable, but have you noticed, did you see this in the 45th minute? You got pushed off the ball by this bloke's not as strong as you. There's no way that defender can bench what you can, or whatever your strength, test is. Do you want me to help you with that? Yeah. As if a player's going to say, no, I like getting pushed off the ball. Then you work on the drills, and I guarantee most good coaches will then come over and, what are you doing there? I'm just trying to work out, well, that should be my job because the gaffer's seeing you do it. And, so that sort of chain of events can happen, but it's an education process. And let's say that the assistant coach says, no, I'm not interested in that no matter what. Or the player says, no, I'm not interested in that. You don't know what you're talking about, you stupid Aussie. That's the end of my job. Mm-hmm. Like that I can't help that athlete. That athlete needs to take their own responsibility to then do that. But I've given that coach, player, every chance to come back and improve him or herself. And if they then don't do it, then I'm not sure what else I can do. I would probably go back again, maybe another time. And if I got the same result, then then the player's got to have their responsibility for their own career at that point. It's when you don't go. It's when you see it and you say, no, the coach is not going to go for it. Or no, that player is bloody hard to work with. I'm not going to do it because it's an awkward conversation. That's the difference.
Because Henri come through in the 90s when there was no one was doing strength training, I'm guessing, especially in Europe. But I guess the young guys coming through now, there's like Des said at Arsenal. Obviously, he's come through his badges. He's recognised the importance, and now he's seen lads come through that have got a foundation of strength training. It's just the norm, but still, we've still got that legacy of players who are coming over potentially from Europe, say from anywhere else, even English guys who don't have that legacy. And I guess that's a bit of a mixture of cultures with the young guys coming through as it's the norm now. But then the maybe 28, 29, 30-year-olds who are still coming and where is this? I've never been in the gym before. So I guess from an elite environment like where you've been, that's quite a tough mix to put together. You've got these young lads who are mad for it and it's in their kind of DNA now. And all this external players who were not particularly used to it. I guess that's quite a tough mix to blend.
You imagine, coming through the Arsenal Academy where strength training is ingrained, and you imagine I don't know, let's say guys like Joe Willock and Reece Nelsen and those guys who've come through that, Eddie and Nketiah come through that academy, and then let's say Arsenal went and signed Thierry Henry, and he goes, strength training up. And then they see Henry, best player in the world, do it, and then they think, well, why am I doing it? So it's a tough scenario. And then you throw in when you can do what he can do, maybe you don't need it. You throw in the genetic argument. Unfortunately, Mr. and Mrs. Willock, you didn't give you unlike Mr. and Mrs. Henry who helped you out. So you can throw in those. But yeah, it's not an easy. And if you think you can manage it by saying everybody must lunge, then you haven't been in those environments, or you haven't been in there long enough. Australia, we're really lucky. We have that culture, and the club I'm working with at the moment, Melbourne, amazing. They're unbelievably compliant, and you could tell stories to people working in Europe, and they go, "There's no way we could do that. You're bullshitting." No, it's just a different culture.
Mm-hmm. I always forget to mention this. If anyone's got any questions, by the way, pop them on the chat. But that can't fail to have an influence when the young guys are seeing the older pros who have been there, done it, and haven't gone through that. No matter how many times you say when you're as good as them, you don't have to do it. Yeah, you can say all that as many times as you want, but it still must have such an impact, which I'm guessing is why Mike said the quiet word in the ear, and like you said about Suarez, you just set the example. I know it's not your thing, blah blah, but he does need it. So I guess that's why it just becomes so important to have the influence of the big guys.
Yeah, there's very few players that are going to, Alexis Sanchez aside, who are going to just say, "No, go away." They're going to have a quiet word. Like I imagine Henry would have a quiet word with a Willock or Nketiah, and I would imagine there wouldn't be too many players who wouldn't do that.
Mm-hmm. One thing that's popped up, I know,
colourful identities joining up. I've just started looking at who's there, who's in the chat room waving away.
Yes.
So, anyway, a couple of AFL legends just joined us.
Is there?
Yes. Someone who you couldn't get out of the gym. Anyway, carry on.
Apologies for my naivety. AFL naivety. One thing that I wanted to put to you, and this definitely wasn't on the list of things that we were going to chat about, but mentors. And the only reason I bring that up is because, and this is not to call anyone out, but a coach from over here who's working at a decent standard had reached out to a fellow professional in this time when everyone's got a little bit more time on the hand, just for a chat, like reasonably, like not up here in terms of like an intern and a head of performance, but relatively similar. And he was directed to a calendar page with a service where you can pay for his time. And I know that everyone's time's limited. Well, not now, but time's valuable, should I say, with family or whatever. And even in normal times, like people haven't got loads of time on their hands to give up to everyone. But where do you sit on that? What does that sit right with you in terms of giving your time to fellow professionals, and how does that differ to like a more structured, I suppose, conversation with someone who's maybe an intern? I'm guessing you get a lot of things, and I'm sure people at your level do get a lot of questions and requests for time and phone calls and whatnot. How do you juggle that?
Yeah, it is a tough one, and you do get, not because you're whatever level, but just because you've been around a bit. You do get people who say, "Can I just have a quick coffee?" And to them, it's a half an hour. If you line them all up, it becomes 6 hours of your week in that. So how do you? I will always answer every single email, and I reckon I've probably had 15 Zoom conversations in 3 weeks with people who have asked a lot of questions, and you exchange some information, and you can always learn something from people. But it's mainly been people requesting, "Can I just have 30 minutes with you?" And No problem. I've got no problem with doing that because I think we owe something to the industry. I do believe that. Us oldies. But if there's a structured mentorship program, then I've got no problem with it because, to be honest, there is a lot to be said, and I have spoken to a couple of people who have been around as long as I have, and they've actually asked me, do you run a mentorship program?
Yeah.
Not because they were interested, but because I'm thinking of setting one up and charging players and charging young high performance managers, or whatever your term you want to use. So I've got no issue with that at all, if that's how you want to do it. If that's the agreement in the transaction beforehand, no problem. There's a responsibility on the person asking you for the cup of coffee to respect the fact and do it in a nice, respectful manner. Mm-hmm. And then there's a responsibility, I think, on the elder states person, male or female, to provide a certain level. And then if they say, listen, can we do this regularly? Because this was amazing. Mm-hmm. Then you might bring that up. And you'd have to be a really stupid young fitness coach to think that you'd do it regularly, because I agree with the Bartholomew's and things like that of the world. Can you get half an hour with a lawyer every week?
Yeah.
No, you can't. Can you get half an hour with an accountant every week? No, you can't. I'll answer every email. Most of the time we'll jump on a Skype and a Zoom and Teams and whatever else. But yeah, I think there's a limit. So I've probably sat on the fence a little bit there, but I think there's a sort of criteria around it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. So from Daz, have you always had to take an approach of on a one-to-one basis, or have there ever been times when you take the whole team together for a team briefing on your philosophy to strength training? Good question.
Yeah, good question. And yes, obviously this is manager dependent. So in the Melbourne Demons, I speak to the players as a group all the time. And I think that creates a lot of buy-in and a lot of just belief about that you're here for them, and you're not busy, and you're not, doing this stuff because you get off on asking players RPEs and things like that. So you're genuinely doing it for them. So I think there's many opportunities to get in front of the players, and in AFL environment, it's pretty common for the fitness, high performance doctor, physio, whatever, just to have 5 minutes at the start of each day to say, today I want you to focus on this or that, or what have you. So yeah, absolutely a group session. It doesn't always happen. With Roy Hodgson, it happened all the time. With Kenny Dalglish, not at all. It just depends on the manager and their history.
In each club you've been at, do you always start off that time there with a kind of not a laying down the law, but just communicating what you believe is the right thing to do and your philosophy and what you expect from the guys?
Yep, for sure.
Yep.
It's more okay, we're going to lift on these days. We're going to warm up for this long. We're going to that sort of thing. This is the team. This is the if you've got any questions. So yeah, for sure.
And you mentioned a couple. Oh, go mate.
No. So again, manager dependent. So with the Australian soccer team, with the Socceroos, with Pim Verbeek, who went down the Raymond Verheyen pathway. He was a big Verheyen fan. He wouldn't let me speak to the players for the first 6 or 8 months because I didn't, I wasn't using Verheyen's methods. And it wasn't until sort of comfortably 6-7 months that he had any kind of trust in me. And then we had an unbelievably tight relationship after that. But yeah, he wouldn't let me anywhere near the players from a whole team point of view.
Yeah. So you mentioned a couple of coaches there. Obviously, Dalglish come through as an ex-player into management. I'm guessing this is just my perception, but a little bit old school. Then you've got the newer, I suppose, more progressive Roy Hodgson, although I've been around a while, seems to me to be a little bit more up to date on how he does things. How does that, back to the Henri situation, how influential does the mentality of the the head coach and therefore his staff have on how you deal with that from an old school point of view to a more progressive younger guy?
Yeah, there comes a point if you're getting nowhere with the manager, there comes a point where you don't, and you go to the players one-on-one.
Yeah.
And so at clubs where that's been an issue in the past, with managers or coaches where that's been an issue, you try really hard, and then you just go to the players. And fortunately, because of whatever my personality or whatever reason, I've always been part of teams that have been able to communicate reasonably well with players. And because you ultimately, they will know. People think players are stupid. Ultimately, they will know if you're in it for them or you're in it for the wrong reasons. And they know if they can bend the rules a little bit, and they can pick out the staff member that'll let them get away with